and I'm a licensed notary public. Despite sharing all these facts with you, I am indeed happily married to a beautiful young lady over here. And her name is Erica. And Bayne, that was for you. All right? Greg and I have grown up together, literally. For what it's worth, while we go back to the late 80s, I've known Lauren since middle school, and have considered her a close friend for as long as I can remember. I met Greg when I was 6 years old, at Pierce Day Camp, before I even moved to Great Neck. We were reunited a year later in Miss Mendelssohn's first grade class at John F. Kennedy Elementary School. A side note for those of you who remember Miss Mendelssohn, she was the inspiration for Miss Lippy from Billy Madison. So the blue, this was her first grade teacher. It's a true story. So we've spent about as much time together, growing up and down, as two people who are not blood relations can spend. So I'd like to just spend a few moments tonight going through some of my favorite experiences, if that's all right with everybody. Yeah? So first, summer camp. Greg and I went to an all-boys summer camp in Lenox, Massachusetts called Mackinac. It was basically a sports camp with no distractions from in the form of co-eds. So we could create our own distractions. One of my favorites was when we rather convinced Greg that he wasn't really our friend. Stu was merely paying us to keep him around. That's a true story, and that did happen. For you sports fans, you know that most people peak athletically around 25, 28 years old. Greg, aided by an extremely early foray into puberty, peaked at around age 15. But in the years leading up to that point, he was always stronger and faster than everyone else, and he was able to sidestep some of the character-building hard work and dedication which makes up the building blocks of any lifelong athlete, getting on by sheer ability and physical gifts, which explains today why he has reverted to whatever that shape is. Like an eggplant, Cassie? So, at camp, we used to attribute some of these gifts to a lucky can of Spam that he would carry around with him to inner camps and sleep with under his pillow. I don't know why or where it came from, but he had the same can for at least 3 years. He'd bring it home and he'd bring it back to camp. So we finally put an end to it when we kidnapped the can, wrote him a ransom note, and when it came time to make the exchange, the can, which was tied to a rafter in the ceiling, got knocked down and fell and broke open, and I can't begin to explain to you what this smelled like. It was disgusting and awful to do that. That can and his Sports Illustrated magazines, the one with Michael Johnson on the cover and the other with Emmett Smith on the cover, both in varying degrees of undress, were his prized possessions. Amazingly, he still stands by the story that he spilled bug juice on it, and that's why the pages and the Emmett Smith issue were stuck together. I'd like to skip right past middle school and all those travel soccer teams that Greg earned a spot on. Already connected to being a coach had nothing to do with that. And move on to the good old days, high school. This is where, in my humble opinion, Greg began to really solidify who he is and what he's made of, while still allowing for a generous amount of space to make mistakes and ostensibly learn from them. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's chalk it up to the fact that Greg prefers to take the road less traveled in order to really get the most out of his experiences, but he just couldn't get out of his own way. The movie Boogie Nights, starring Mark Wahlberg, co-starring, amongst others, Burt Reynolds and Philip Seymour Hoffman, who I think I saw earlier tonight in the came out in 1997, during the fall semester of our sophomore year in high school. It is the story of a young man's adventures in the Californian pornography industry in the 70s and 80s. Well, we watched this movie quite a few times. Partly because there were some of those scenes where you watch with your friends and only they appreciate the humor, and partly because there was a lot of nudity. Now stay with me. There was a lot going on at the time. Greg had taken up the self-imposed nickname Hammer. This was a thinly veiled reference to his days as a standout running back for the Great Neck North High School Blazer football team. Terry was even kind enough to go out and make him a polyurethane hammer inscribed with Greg Hammer Hayer. He would only respond to you if you called him Hammer. Okay? So that's what we're dealing with. Then, he gets this dungaree jacket vest and writes things on it like hardcore and whatever phrase he was trying to make happen at the time with black and red markers, puts a set of handcuffs on the shoulder strap and declares it was supposed to be his rocker look. Right? What he'd wear if he was Nikki Sixx, right, from Motley Crue.
He still has that jacket.
I guess he does. So there's Hammer with his jacket and vest. We used to go to his house all the time because the Haynes would be very generous and always allow us to congregate there. We could eat their food, play pool, swim, shoot each other with firecrackers, things like this. Boogie Nights comes out. In one scene, Dirk Diggler, Wahlberg's character, decides he is such a big star he's going to begin to branch out into other interests, like music and karate, and tries to blend the two into the singing, karate, dance moves type career. The audience is taken to a recording studio where Dirk is laying down a cut of the now classic You Got the Touch. You remember this one? Want to do a little cut verse thing? You got the touch! So, it is an extreme regret that I report to you all that there is no recorded footage of what I'm about to paint you a picture of. But here's what happened. 10 to 12 of us are in Bayne's bedroom. A few girls are over to socialize. He's nowhere to be found until, wait, he jumps out of the closet, literally. Nikki Sixx jacket vest on and full regalia. Someone screams, cue the music. And next thing you know, he's doing his rendition of the song and dance routine for all of us to sing. When I tell you I saw this over 100 times, it never ceased to amaze me. And I can only imagine what these young ladies thought. Just suffice it to say, nobody got laid any of those nights. All right? We're going to get there. I'm sorry. I'm jumping. The college years were no less challenging and interesting for Greg. For starters, with a new environment and a new set of expectations came a new nickname. At this point, Greg had been playing online poker for a few years. In order to protect both his identity and that of his loved ones, he adopted what is referred to in internet parlance as a handle, or a screen name, though in this case it became a persona. Scott Bayne. He's a risk taker. He doesn't say please or thank you. I don't know where Scott came from. Probably a subconscious reference to Scott Baio, who Greg looked exactly like when he was 11 years old. Or for that matter, Bayne, but it did stick. Before tonight, and solely for sequencing purposes because neither Hammer nor Bayne existed in 1994, I have not called him Greg since college. That's another true story. So there's Bayne, slanging in the streets and banging in the streets of Miami during his sophomore year. His freshman year, he lived in Coconut Grove, but he brought his talents to South Beach for the follow-up act. One night, he's out in the town, having a few cocktails, toasting to the good life, that sort of thing. Two things happened, not for the first or last time. One, he drank too much. Two, his tiny bladder couldn't handle it. I wish this story ended with him peeing in his pants at a crowded bar, but no, Bayne does not go down like that. In his drunk haze, he decides, well, gee, if I have to go to the bathroom and I'm in the Grove, why not just go to my apartment? Only problem is, we didn't live there anymore. Minor detail for Bayne. The gamble's over, can't find his keys, decides to break into the apartment and relieve himself. Well, what's a minor detail for Bayne is a criminal offense called breaking and entering. So we give him a slap on the wrist, off he goes, ego battered but not broken. I can literally go on all night. Bayne's first trip to Europe was with me, a big mistake on both of our parts, numerous faux pas on various bachelor parties, some of Bayne's middle school girlfriends, the on and mostly off attempts at getting into shape, literally the stupidest things available for sale in the world, just a small sampling. I'm really the opening act tonight, so you are all in for a treat. On a more sentimental note, I remember when I first found out that Greg and Lauren were seeing each other, not including high school. I was alerted by a text message in the form of a suggested picture and some colorful language. Well, how about that? She's a great girl, he seems happy, let's see where this goes. We've gone from that very common post-college story to tonight, and in between, my beautiful and talented wife Erica and Lauren have become close friends. We all lived in the same building for the past 2 years, spending every football Sunday together, as well as many other special and run-of-the-mill occasions, and Greg and I have had the chance to add a few more adult conversations to our dealings without losing touch of that 6-year-old. Bayne has played a pivotal role in my life, as a friend, confidant, a cautionary tale, a fantasy football commissioner, a lifeline to friends from camp, an organizer of activities, and on a few occasions a role model. He has an incredible work ethic. He is and was the reason I became an avid reader. He's a gracious host, and he lives his life the right way. doesn't lie, doesn't cheat, doesn't steal. With all these attributes, it comes as no surprise to report that we have managed to go through all the earlier reference stages of life without a single major fight or interruption in our relationships. I think I speak for everyone here when I say these two gigantic families have a bright future ahead of them with this marriage, and I'm blessed to have a front row seat to the past, present, and future. If you would all raise a glass to Lauren and Greg, you two make a great couple. I'm honored to be part of your life, and best of luck to both of you.
Yeah!